You know when you're watching an action movie and the main character sort of like mysteriously disappears for a long period of time and everybody's lives are sort of going on, but you're sort of like, where is this guy? What's going on? And everybody's wondering, like he could have been captured. He might even be dead. Who fucking knows? No one really knows what's going on, but you're wondering. And then eventually, you know how like right at the just at the right moment he just sort of swoops in all of a sudden out of nowhere, and the supporting actor, the supporting actress or whatever sort of looks over and they're like, "Johnson, where the hell have you been? We almost lost everything out there. You better start explaining." And then Johnson's like, "There's no time to explain. We got to get out of here right now. This place is going to blow in like 12 seconds." And then everybody starts running, and you're just sort of excited that the guy's back. And you sort of trust that eventually by the end of the movie, you're going to get your explanation about everything that's been going on. That's kind of like us right now. And so you and I are sort of like going to be co-starring in an action movie for a little while here, okay? And the thing about this movie is that, for better or worse, I'm not sure. I guess that's going to be up to you. But this movie is a trilogy, okay? It's going to take some time to tell this story. All right. And so what's going to happen is, believe it or not, I've been recording podcasts. I've been recording content. I've been recording from different parts of the country, from different places in my mind, from different perspectives and vantage points. And I've come back to a lot of material. And what I've decided to do with it all is I've sort of combed through it, and I have harvested the parts that I like a lot and that I want to keep. And the challenge has been, how can I build this thing as sort of a timeline? And so that's what it's going to be, okay? It's going to be 3 episodes, but it's not like the context of one needs to be known in the context of the other. It's just going to be sort of a continuous sort of timeline of things. And this movie is going to consist of a combination of time travel and present day narration. And that's how we're going to get through all of it. All right. And the good thing that I've decided to do is I've spent the last 2 or 3 weeks editing all this shit, building all of this stuff so that I can do it all at once. Okay. So you're going to get episode 7 and episode 8 today. And episode 9 is going to drop in just a few days. And here's how they're all kind of going to lay out. Episode 7, obviously, is what you're listening to right now. Okay, in episode 7, we're going to travel all the way back to mid-August, right when we were wrapping up the fundraiser tournament, which, by the way, we raised $644,000 for the Travis Roy Foundation in one weekend. Not bad for a little wiffle ball tournament, hey? But this episode requires a bit of a disclaimer, okay? And to my credit, at least I didn't come back with some soft shit, okay? This episode gets really fucked up. I mean, really fucked up. It gets really weird. And it's a subject that I would otherwise consider sort of low-hanging fruit. And you'll hear that I tried very hard not to get into it, but alas, I couldn't help myself, and I got way into it. But I like to think that I did it in a non-pedestrian way, and in a way that is sort of like the angles and the thoughts and the ideas are very native to me individually. And if podcasts could be like, discographies or music catalogs for different artists, well, episode 7 is definitely like my journey through the secret life of plants. And if you get that reference without any help, then high five to you. Everybody else, Journey Through the Secret Life of Plants was a Stevie Wonder record that he put out at the height of his commercial success that had almost zero commercial viability, and it fucked up everybody. Nobody knew what to think of it. Critics hated it. Half his fan base hated it. The other half of his fan base was sort of like, "I don't know what you're trying to do here, Stevie, but I like you and I trust you, and I'm going to roll with you on this. I'm going to stick with you." Many of us consider it a complete work of genius, okay? And do not let me compare my podcast to a work of genius. That's not what I'm saying. It's just a metaphor. All I'm saying is this might not be for everybody. Okay, I'm finding that podcasts are a lot like music. You make them, you make these songs, you make this music, and sometimes it's good and you want to put it out. Other times it's shit and you never want anybody to hear it. Then there's the moments where like you're really not sure and you've just got to throw it out there and you've got to just see what people think. And that's what you're getting on this one, okay? But it's fucking weird, it gets crazy, and you're going to want to buckle in for it. After that, episode 8, real easy, real nice and easy. We're all just going to cool it. We're going to cruise along. We're going to talk about some music. And then in the second half, we're going to go back to the beginning of September when I had a follow-up discussion with Travis the Millennial. Did the title belt go down? Yeah, the title belt went down. We're going to talk about that among other things. Episode 8 is nice and easy. And that's because episode 9 is going to get really fucking heavy. That's where I'm going to explain what's been going on, where I've been, and why. That's where I'm going to start. I'm going to address a subject that I've wanted to talk about on this show. I knew eventually I would. I just didn't think I'd do it yet, but I suppose the course of my life has forced my hand a little bit. And so we're going to get into that. Okay? Episode 9 is going to get heavy, but at least you're going to have your explanation. I think you'll be happy with it, at least satisfied. Okay? And maybe it's going to help some people in the process. All right? So that's all. Okay, let's just start getting out of here. Let's all jump in this little time machine together. I just want to tell you how happy I am to have you sitting here with me. I wasn't sure I'd ever get back to this or not, and I love doing this, and I'm very flattered, and I'm very gracious that there are people that have taken an interest in it, and I do not take it for granted for a second. Okay? So let's just all jump in here. If you got to jump out halfway through the ride on this one, I understand. Just catch up to us on episode 8. Everything will be cool. All right. Otherwise, let's all just jump in the little time machine. Let's buckle up, like I said, and let's try to get this fucking show back on the road. Can we? All right. Action.
Mas er neslej, snarkar de du sniver da en selo fuiket. This is slay, mas er, that is the way he bedagos. This is boy, yes, it got and that was no I'm yes, when if you're any else to snap down, there was the hero was. Fuss, I'm like this now, there will stand this night now we are. For this of this side of Sassia, snow off with Sassia. All this Sassia, heard no we eat Sassia, girls the boy, that's of the skiller, most of the nose you walk back in bus. This time can I get see we used your ability little bus. This time your guys were yeah, but this is just sweet for such that and you're certain able to imagine here, not really for you. Yeah. Oh, shit, this is
Hey, hi there. Welcome to episode 7 of the Tony McNaboe Show. I'm not going to talk about the Catholic Church this week. I'm not going to talk about it. Damn it, I am not going to talk about the Catholic Church this week. Boy, there's a lot to talk about this week. None of it will include the Catholic Church. Nope. Now, I don't understand a fucking thing about Snapchat other than it scares the fucking hell out of me when I know that it's in the hands of teenagers. But I'm going to have a look at it. In fairness, I'm going to see what it's all about and cruise around. And so we'll see what happens with that. Speaking of teenagers and young people who shouldn't be exposed to those kinds of things that early, I'm not talking about the Catholic Church. So anyway, next guest on my next episode, hopefully, if I can manage to behave and not talk about the Catholic Church and not let this all get away from me this week, my next guest... I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. I won't do it. I can't do it. Okay? I have things coming up on this show. I have things planned. I don't want to compromise that. I don't want to... I'm not gonna fucking do it because I don't want to lose my fucking temper either. Frankly. So I can't. I can't. You know? But look, okay, so... Let's, let me just scratch the surface of it, okay? Let me get it off my chest, okay? And I'm not going to get too deep into this thing like I want to, but I'm not going to. All right? Here's what's up. All right? We're here we are. Hold on. Okay. All right. So, there we were after this wonderful weekend, this great weekend, this tournament that we go to every year. See 100 friends that I've made, people that I have grown to love that I see once a year at this tournament. I saw my teammates who I see like twice a year. We all live in different parts of the country now. We all fly in for this. It was joyous, as it always is. It was life affirming. It was very positive. It was beautiful. And then my teammate, Michael, and I, we get into the car when it's all over. We say bye to everybody. It's always a sad, long goodbye. It's hard to leave, but we say bye to everybody, and we're driving home, and we're listening to talk radio, and this story starts to break of inappropriate sexual behavior, of sexual assault within, guess what, the Catholic Church. Okay? Unsurprising. Very unsurprising, almost not even noteworthy on its face. But then, as they talk more about it and these things start to peel back, you realize that this is a newly released grand jury investigation, a statewide investigation into the state of just only the state of Pennsylvania, okay? One state in our union, part of a institution that is worldwide. And this is broken down to just one state. How many pages could they need to deliver on just 6 dioceses and 54 counties? Just guess. 14 fucking hundred pages this thing is. That's how much shit was going on in the state of Pennsylvania alone. And this subject makes me very angry for a lot of reasons. We'll try to peel that back as we go, okay? But what do? The first thing I want to do when I get some time to myself, I go up and I print this thing off. I find it online, I download the PDF, and I printed off the first 150 pages. Now, I can't read 1,400 pages at a time, but I'm going to start with this, and I print off the first 150 pages. And I sit down and I start reading them. It reads like a fucking nightmare. It is absolutely disgusting. But I'm not going to talk about it. It's too much. I don't want to spend my show talking about that shit, but I will say this. Man, I don't know how anybody went to fucking Catholic church last weekend, man. I really don't. And I want to make very clear that I'm not attacking any of your beliefs, okay? If you practice Catholicism, I'm not attacking your belief in that. If that's something you want to devote your life to and your servitude of God and Jesus, that's your business. I'm not attacking that. And I'm certainly not attacking the Christian faith. I'm not attacking anybody's belief in God. Everybody needs something to lean on. Everybody needs something that they can feel like is their, something that comforts them. And I was like that once as well with Christianity and with faith. And I'm not trying to take that away from anybody. But what I'm telling you, if you do practice Catholicism, if you're a member of the Catholic Church, then there are other places that you can go to serve that same means. And I'm not telling you that as somebody who doesn't understand your religion. I went to a Catholic high school. I was raised Catholic. What I'm telling you that from somebody who did leave the Catholic Church, but not Christianity. I didn't leave God and Jesus. I didn't even, unfortunately, leave this life of servitude and this belief and this indoctrination until, in my opinion, too late in my life. But I did leave the Catholic Church by the time I was 19 or 20. All right. But I'm not telling you to stop having faith. I'm not telling you even to stop your servitude and your belief in all this shit. What I'm talking about is the Catholic institution, which should be taken down from the top, from the Pope, who has known now, it's coming out, who has known for something like 8 years about the Archbishop of DC and his involvement in sexual predatory behavior and sexual assault. And the Pope has known about this, and he has pardoned and pardoned and pardoned and pardoned. And that's my point. Okay, you'll try to tell me, oh, it's certain people. There are bad seeds. There's bad apples throughout this whole institution. But at the root of it, it's God, and God is good and all this shit. Bullshit. Not with the Catholic institution. Bullshit. And there might be some of you listening that you might think I'm overreacting. Maybe some of you are of the Catholic faith. You think I'm overreacting. Maybe some of you are from any background at all. You think I'm overreacting. I know I said I wasn't going to do this, but for that reason, let me share some of this with you, because I'm sure some of you aren't like me. I'm sure a lot of you didn't go and download the first 200 pages of this and take it home and read it. And whenever I read anything, I'm always making notes and bracketing certain things that I think are particularly interesting. Okay, so I've bracketed a couple things. Let me just share a couple things with you so you don't think I'm overreacting. Okay, and I'll try to make it as fun as I can. I'll try to make it funny somehow. And I don't want this to be this negative, polarizing thing. I really don't, truly. But let me just share a couple things with you. Back to that little secret file I was telling you about. This is part of the report. Of all of these things that they found, that they investigated, they were able to get access to these things, which abuse complaints, this is from the report, abuse complaints were kept locked in a, quote, secret archive, unquote. That is not our word, but theirs. The Church's Code of Canon Law specifically requires the diocese to maintain such an archive. Only the bishop can have the key. This secret archive is to explain, this secret archive is filled with every single sexual abuse complaint that's ever been made. So again, where does it go when it happens? Not to the police, not to a lawyer. It goes into a secret archive that only the bishop has the key to. In other words, it goes away. Okay, so that's a good place to start. Okay? Hey! Okay, here's a great one. Similarly, in the Diocese of Erie, despite a priest's admission to assaulting at least a dozen young boys, the bishop wrote to thank him for, quote, all that you have done for God's people. The Lord, who sees in private, will reward you. Another priest confessed to anal and oral rape of at least 15 boys as young as 7 years old. The bishop, now the bishop is the big guy, the bishop later met with the abuser to commend him as, quote, a person of candor and sincerity, and to compliment him for the progress he has made in, quote, controlling his addiction. Another priest, grooming his middle school students for oral sex, taught them how Mary had to, quote, lick Jesus clean after he was born. It took another 15 years and numerous additional reports of abuse before the diocese finally removed the priest from ministry. Where do you think he went? Do you think he went to jail? No, he didn't. His report went right into that little fucking secret box, and he just went away. And he's probably still collecting his pension or whatever the fuck. Living somewhere. Probably still doing that, just not dressed up in a costume with a fucking collar on it. There's the story of the priest who made a 9-year-old give him oral sex, then rinsed out the boy's mouth with holy water to purify him. Here's a really great one. This is the last one I'm going to give you, okay? I don't want to spend all day on this. Here's a really great one. I love this, okay? Yet another priest. This is pages later. And I mean, believe me, this could be a 1-hour episode on its own if I wanted to. I have so much shit outlined in this thing that I would love to share with you, but I can't. I'm not going to. Actually, geez. Yet another priest finally decided to quit after years of child abuse complaints. But, and again, where do you think he went? Did he go to jail? No. He just quit because he got tired of all these fucking parents coming to him all the time and being like, hey, I heard that you told my son that you had to teach him how to check for cancer, and the only way he could know if he had cancer or not was if his penis filled with blood when you stroked it. Real story. And we think that's fucked up. And the best way to know if you don't have cancer is if your penis shoots something out after it fills with blood. These 9-year-old boys, and they're scared of cancer, and this is how the guy teaches him that they don't have it. Okay, so continue with that. Okay, so he just got tired of all these complaints. He said, you know what, you guys, this is too much heat on me. I just want to get out of here. So what did they do? Priest finally decided to quit after years of child abuse complaints, but asked for and received a letter of reference for his next job. Guess where? You ready? His next job at Walt Disney World. Hey, all right. Hi, little boy. I'm Mickey Mouse. What's your name? I like you. Can I give you a hug? I'm Mickey Mouse. You fucking assholes. These motherfuckers. That's all. That's all. I'm not doing it. I'm not fucking doing it. So, I actually did keep going, and believe it or not, it actually got deeper and darker as I went further into these pages. But I think in the interest of time, even though it hurts my heart to leave out the part where 3 priests put an 11-year-old boy naked on a crucifix and jerked off to him, as much as it pains me to leave that part out, or the part about the sexual abuse victim in the Diocese of Erie, Pennsylvania, who came out to the paper over a decade after the abuse, and then the bishop wrote to him and said, hey, buddy, by the way, before you go running your mouth, I want to remind you that you weren't 11 years old when the abuse took place, as you claimed. You were 14. basically called the guy a fucking liar and also, basically acknowledged that the abuse took place, but gave no concession, gave no apology, gave no comfort. No, nothing like that. Basically just said, hey, you weren't 11 when this guy sodomized you. You were 14, you fucking liar. How about that? Right? So I hate to leave all that stuff out, but anyway, in the interest of like moving this thing along, I did realize, as you would expect, I did realize the need for some sort of like comedic relief to this whole thing because it did get a little bit heavy. So my mind wandered down this path and I went on this long sort of off the cuff, spontaneous tangent. And I fashioned this imaginary fairy tale scenario whereby 5 of the most unlikely people saved America and the planet Earth from the perils of Catholicism. And you won't believe how they did it. And I'm going to share that story in its entirety with you in just a few minutes. And that's really the meat and potatoes of this whole episode anyways. All this stuff before was just like character development. I just want to establish my reasonings for being so fucking angry and being so sickened and being so cynical about these fucking people, like where these scenarios take place that you could never imagine the shit. Like nobody could ever think this stuff up. It can only, manifest itself in a place as corrupt and morally bankrupt and fucking abhorrent as the Catholic institution. Like only these people can make this kind of shit come to light. And hopefully I've made my point to you clearly enough. Hopefully you're sold. Hopefully I don't need to try to sell you on this still. But anyway. So I told this big long story and it was, like I said, it was a spontaneous thing. And then I'm listening back to it. I'm thinking like, this is pretty good. I like how this is all going. And then I realized like a quarter of the way through it, unbeknownst to me, my microphone had become unplugged from my device. And so it basically picked up like the whole last part of this story only through the internal microphone on my device, which sounds kind of shitty. And I'm thinking like, I can't use this now. I'm going to have to redo this whole thing. Like, I don't know if I can replicate this. And I was sort of bummed out and discouraged. So I took a knee for a day and I'm like, all right, now I'm ready to do this again. And then I thought to myself, you know what? I don't do really drugs. I've said before, I'll say again, like I've never done any real drugs really. Like I've never done like cocaine or any amphetamine or any shit like that. Like I drink and that's it. And every now and then I smoke some pot and I love it. I think it's a fucking great thing. But I only do it every now and then because it fucks me up like crazy. Like you wouldn't believe it if you hung out with me and we smoke pot. Maybe someday we'll all get to do that together. I go to another fucking place. My mind goes fucking bananas. I basically trip my fucking face off. And, my mind wanders to a lot of places. I come up with a lot of fucked up things to say and a lot of fucked up ideas. I mostly just want to sit and laugh and listen to music and come up with inventions. That's mostly all I ever want to do. But like, I'm not functioning at all. I can't get in a car and drive it. I can't go to a store. I can't deal with like a clerk at a convenience store. I can't talk to my mom on the phone. I've got friends who just wake up, smoke a pile of weed and go about their day. I'm not one of those. Okay. So I'm thinking, if I've got to do this whole story again, like how can this be inspiring to me again? Like, so I decided I'm going to smoke some pot and then I'll tell this story and it'll be even better because I'll go to even more fucked up places and I'll think of even funnier shit to say. And this is going to be a great idea. Okay. So before I actually go and share the original recording of this with you, let me just play a few minutes of the, some excerpts of this recording I made when I thought it'd be such a good idea. I'll smoke some pot and then I'll tell this story. It'll be great. Well, here's how that went. You guys. So I found, as I was walking around, I found a sunflower. Gosh darn it, if it's not in a whole pile of weeds. It lives among just nothing blossoms. But this sunflower lives here. And it's getting taller. It's like a foot tall now. And I feel like it's really brave. And that it got here not by coincidence. And it's here to show the weeds what they're capable of. Maybe that's the whole point, because like these weeds, their whole entire lives, they've never known anything different than weeds. And then here comes this little sunflower. And
And they're like, what the fuck is that? Look at that thing, it's beautiful. It really is too. It's little still, like its face is little. I say its face like it's a box of cereal. It doesn't have a face, and it's not talking or dancing. Actually, wait, is it? It's dancing a little bit. Oh, weird. Now it looks more like the Grim Reaper than Norm Macdonald. I don't even remember what I'm supposed to be talking about right now. Look at that tree. You know, we're on a planet right now, you guys. Think about that shit. We're on a fucking planet. I guarantee you, if we weren't on a planet, we would envy people who are on a planet. We're on a fucking planet. And it's huge. And yet we're still so small. And what does that mean about how big I am? I must be tiny, man. I am tiny. Oh my God, you guys, we are not even tiny. We're smaller than, is there a smaller size than tiny? Small, medium, large. Wait, that's large, medium, small, miniature, extra small. Tiny's in there somewhere. And then underneath tiny is microscopic. Oh my God, you guys, we're microscopic. We are. We have to be. Oh man, that's cool. Think about that. We have to be from somewhere we're microscopic. Okay, and think of all the fucking times we've looked at something under a microscope and we've wondered how small or how unsmall it really is. And now we know we are exactly that small or unsmall. So think of how fucking insignificant we are. We don't mean shit.
So, as you can imagine, that didn't really serve its intended purpose. I ended up coming in the next morning, listening back to all this shit, and I'm like, it's just me going down this ridiculous rabbit hole of existentialism and seismic relativity like a moron for a half hour, and I thought I still don't really have shit to use. So, I've listened back to the original recording a couple times of this story, and I've decided I'm gonna let it be. There's definitely a point where you hear the drop off in the quality of the audio, but I think after like 30 seconds you kind of adjust, and I don't think it really bothers you that much. Is it perfect? No. But I also don't think I'll ever be able to replicate where I was coming from. And these moments of like real joy and candor and absolute sardonic fucking darkness. This gets dark, okay? This is where everything gets pretty weird. So I hope you'll be able to stick with me through it. If you do, then I'll know that we're friends. I'll know that we're going to be cool forever. If you make it through this next part, we're going to make it through anything, okay? So I'm presenting it to you in its original form, and sit back, enjoy it. And in the event that you are still here when it's over, I will see you briefly on the other side of this to sort of wrap things up, okay? So hold on tightly. Here we go. I've had this daydream for the last week since this all broke out, okay? Here's what I'd like to do. Let's all take a little trip into my mind, okay? We'll play make-believe like the Catholic Church. We have to believe that hell exists. Okay, so let's start with like, there actually is this big giant campfire underneath our feet, a big giant body of fire, and it's below us, and it's where we go when we do bad. We also have to believe if we do good, if we spend our whole lives doing good by Jesus, then we get to go to this wonderful place. And the streets are paved with gold. And we drink milk and honey. And we wear gowns and we have halos over our heads. And you know what we get to do there, you guys? You know what we get to do? We get to serve this fucking guy for all of eternity. Doesn't that sound great? Like, well, I haven't I haven't met a stranger and had sex with them in 500 years. And I'd really just love to watch a ball game and drink a beer. But I think I'm better off today just washing Jesus's feet again. I'll do that today instead, and tomorrow, and the next day, and the next day, just forever and ever. So that's our great reward if we do well. We get to go and do that. And then alternately, like, there's this monster that lives below our feet, and this monster, and he makes us do all the fun shit. Right. And so one day when all the fun's over, we just have to, if we do wrong, if we're not scared of Jesus and we do wrong, we have to go down there because we've had so much fun. And then we have to go down there and we just have to burn forever and ever and ever. We just burn alive and, every day. Okay. So all this stuff exists in this little daydream that we're having. Okay. This stuff's all real. And so here's what I've got planned, okay? And here's what I need. I need 12 PA systems. And I'm not talking about some rinky-dink shit that you have in the conference center of your hotel. I'm not even talking about the really nice PA that you might have in like a 1,000 or 2,000 seat venue. No, I'm talking the giant stadium-sized PA systems. Think Jay-Z, think Radiohead or U2, okay? Stadium-sized PAs. I need 12 of those. I need them set up in a circle, equidistant, in a circle, all facing the center of the circle, okay? And right at the center point of this circle, I intend to have a ceremony whereby I hope to summon the Prince of Darkness himself, all right? I am going to need some subjects at the middle of this, which will be very pleasing to Satan. People who I think Satan, if it existed, might have personally put on earth for his own pleasure, okay? And I can't work with Hitler, I can't work with Charles Manson, people that are already gone. I have to work with what we've got. And so I've thought to myself, who are the two most evil, disgusting, vile people that walk among this fucking planet Earth? And so at the center of this circle of PAs, right at the center, I am placing Casey Anthony and George Zimmerman. Now, I'm not stupid. I know that Casey Anthony and George Zimmerman aren't enough to get the devil all the way up here to the surface of the earth. So another thing I'm going to do is I'm going to artificially inseminate Casey Anthony with George Zimmerman's semen. We all know how much the Catholic Church hates premarital conceptions. That is except for that one case where a very important figure in the Catholic Church was born to, I'm not going to say that. All I'm saying is the Virgin Mary and Joseph, many years her elder, well, they were kind of spending an awful lot of time together before Jesus was born. And thank God for the lack of science when the Virgin Mary became pregnant. Otherwise, we might never have had any of this. Like, here's a funny thought, right? Can you imagine if we still lived in an age of such scientific darkness? Can you imagine how many fucking teenage kids, or like just how many girls, boys, men, women would be so let off the hook because the girl could just be like, Dad, God gave me a baby. And the dad would be like, honey, that's great. We're gonna have a savior and a prophet in our family. That's incredible. Anyway, all right, I digress. So if the Catholic Church hates that so much, then you know it must be so pleasing to the entity of darkness. So I'm going to artificially inseminate Casey Anthony, but I'm not going to do it in the traditional way. No, I'm going to do it with a gun, because we know how much George Zimmerman loves guns, and so I'm going to fill a capsule with semen and enter it into the chamber, and George Zimmerman is simply going to shoot this gun into Casey Anthony's vagina. But I know what you're thinking. You're like, Tony, this sounds too easy for George Zimmerman. And you know what? I agree with you.
And so I've thought about this, and I've had to think, how can I make this more displeasing to George Zimmerman? And you know what? I had to think, like, what does George Zimmerman really hate? I know what George Zimmerman hates. George Zimmerman fucking hates black people. We all know that. So I need to find somebody to add to the little petri dish, okay? So I'm thinking, I need a really bad black person. I need somebody that only, like, if the devil did exist, he'd be pleased. And so I came across Chris Brown, okay? Like, it fits right into the formula of Lucifer. Like, Chris Brown's done nothing except come here, make a bunch of shitty music, and he's a billionaire because of it. Add to that the fact that he has nothing but a rap sheet of physical and sexual assaults against women. And while we're at it, can we talk about how, now I don't want to actually literally talk to you about this because it'll be an unpopular opinion and you'll all just get mad at me and the conversation will end. That's how things work. But can we all ask ourselves a question? How in the age of the Me Too era, how is it possible if we are now to, like, hold men to account to what they do, and we've all agreed to this as a society, we're all going to work hard to do these things and hold people more accountable? How the fuck is it possible that Chris Brown, with all of these physical and sexual assaults against women, how did he sell 75 million fucking copies of his record last year? Again, I don't want to talk to you about it. It's a whole nother thing in itself. But I just want you to think about that for a second. Just wonder. Because it's very interesting, I think. Anyways, so now we've got Chris Brown involved in all of this thing, okay? So we're going to merge George Zimmerman and Chris Brown's semen, which I think is going to really upset George Zimmerman because it's going to force him to have a mixed race child, which is really going to piss him off, and it's going to be fucking awesome. But I'm not convinced that just the mere presence of Chris Brown, George Zimmerman, Casey Anthony, and this artificially inseminated hellspawn that we're creating, I'm not convinced that it's quite enough to get the devil to make an appearance. So I need 2 more people. And keep in mind, each one of these people are not only just pleasing to the devil, but each one of them has their own specific purpose. Remember that. So I need 2 more people. And I am sending both the Donald and Hillary to this site. Yes, that's right, both of them. Both of them. And they can each go right where they belong at this future imaginary bubbling and opening of the crust of the earth as fucking hellfire and Satan himself emerges. And they can both stand right there at the mouth of it all, right where they both fucking belong. And if you have any questions about how I feel about either one of them, just remember that I'm putting them in the company of Chris Brown, George Zimmerman, Casey Anthony, and Satan. Okay? Now, here we go. We've got all 12 of these PAs surrounding us, and this is the group that I've assembled in the center. What are these PAs for? These PAs, all 12 of them, are going to simultaneously, not at different times, not in a certain order, played in a circle. No, simultaneously, I am going to play all 12 studio records from Slayer at the same time, and there's going to be no code, there's no promoter, there's nobody to be like, dude, you're pushing my levels too hot, you're peaking all my levels. Nope, we're hitting play, we're pushing the dials to the very top, we're playing them as loud as they will go, and right now, here's the scenario I've got set for us, and it's perfect, okay? 12 PAs playing all 12 Slayer records. Rain and Blood is playing over here. South of Heaven is playing over here. God Hates Us All is playing over here. Slayer music is playing everywhere. It's this big satanic fucking party. It's tremendous. Chris Brown has now jerked off into a cup. He's dumped that in. We've mixed together with George Zimmerman. It's loaded into his gun. He's ready to shoot Casey Anthony in the vagina with his gun. And everything is going perfectly. Okay, now here's one of the reasons I need Donald Trump, because the whole thing's about to go down. In a very, very ceremonious moment, Donald Trump shouts out, "On your marks, get set, shoot her in the pussy." And at that point, George Zimmerman fires this gun into Casey Anthony's vagina.
and she is now impregnated with both Chris Brown and George Zimmerman, and this child is going to form very quickly because the devil is now so close to the surface of the earth. The child is born, and it dumps out of Casey Anthony. What we are to do now is to sacrifice this child to the entity of darkness, to Lucifer, to Satan himself. And I've decided, let's do it in the way that we've been taught that Abraham was going to do it, okay? You know what happened with Abraham? As the story goes in the Bible, Abraham heard God's voice in his head, okay? And not at any point was it equated to insanity or anything like that. It's just, here was Abraham, this great man. He's walking along one day and he heard God's voice said, hey, Abraham, by the way, it's me, God. Listen, I need you to murder your firstborn son. And Abraham said, what the heck are you talking about? Like, why? And God said, well, I'm not sure that you trust me. I'm not sure you love me enough. So in order to show me that you love me, I need you to murder your firstborn child. To which Abraham, of course, said, well, you know, I sure do love that little bugger, and he's awfully cute, but you know what? You're God, so fuck it. Son, hey, come on over here for a minute. We're going for a walk. And Abraham takes his firstborn son, and he puts him on a piece of stone, and he ties him up. He bounds him. I can only imagine how terrifying this might have been for Abraham's son. Being tied up by his father, and he's starting to realize his father's about to murder him, and his father's telling him, this is for God, this is for the better good. Okay, now apply that to modern day, please, just for a minute. Apply that to modern day. You're reading the newspaper. Westbrook man murders his son by the river. Police question him. He says, I did it for God. God told me that I needed to murder my son. I explained it to my son. I tied him up and I cut his throat. Think for a minute about how you'd feel about that. Certainly wouldn't be something biblical that you would want to teach to a group of parishioners in a church, would it? It would sort of be like, okay, this guy's totally mentally insane. He needs to go away. But anyway, not in the Bible, not in Catholicism. Nope, we learned that lesson. We learned that this was how he showed his love for God. But unlike God, okay, if you're still with me, unlike God, the devil doesn't fuck around when he says, sacrifice a child for me. Unlike God, the devil, right at the moment you're about to sacrifice it, it doesn't say, hey, no, I was just kidding. Here's a goat. Just sacrifice this other living animal. Just take this other, let your son go, untie him, let him run off and scream and wonder why his father just tried to murder him. And here's this goat. I think it was a goat. It might have been a sheep or something. I don't fucking... But take this other living thing and slice that thing open and spill that thing's blood for me to please me. That's how God works. Well, the devil's different. The devil's like, child? Sure, I'd love a child. So here we've got this child and we're tied it up and it's sitting on this stone just like Abraham's firstborn son. Well, here's another reason why I needed Casey Anthony. I know already that Casey Anthony has no fucking problem murdering her firstborn. She's already done it once. So I hand Casey Anthony the knife. She comes over. She kills another fucking baby that she gave birth to. The blood begins to spill into the earth and bubble, bubble, bubble. All of a sudden, here comes the devil itself. And here's where I need Donald and Hillary. I need Hillary there to greet the devil. I need her to greet the devil with that big bug-eyed fucking disingenuous, insincere fucking smile. And there she is waving at the devil and smiling and their eyes are all fucking bugged out. She's waving and pointing like, I know you, hi, I know you, I remember you. And the devil's very pleased by this because the devil loves deceit. And the devil loves dishonesty, not to mention corruption and murder. He loved all that stuff about Hillary too, but he loves being greeted by Hillary in this way. And then I need over here, I've got Donald Trump, and this is perfect because I just imagine that like if the devil is real, I just feel like he'd fucking love Donald Trump. And I also feel like Donald Trump would somehow find a way to reach out to the devil, like extend an olive branch. Like, this is a great opportunity for Donald Trump. And I can see him going to Twitter and saying, like, things are going to change now. The devil has used us and mistreated us for centuries and centuries. And I'm going to be meeting with the devil in this summit. And isn't it wonderful to be alive in an age? Isn't it fucking wonderful to be here today right now, where it's not far removed from the realm of imagination that you might read a headline that the president is actually going to have a summit with fucking Satan himself? Like, I really honestly wouldn't be surprised tomorrow if I woke up to that. I'd be like, holy shit, here we go. This is insane, but I'm not surprised. And so the Donald's tweeting and he's saying, I'm gonna do this, and I need Donald Trump to work out a deal for me, because here's what I need from the devil. I need Donald Trump to work out, say, something fucking crazy, something like, let's say, 646 billion tons of hell fuel. And not only do I need that loaned to me by the devil, but I also need a pipeline built. And once that pipeline is built up here, I need this hose and this means to spraying this hell fuel into hellfire. And also in turn, for that reason, I'm going to need some sort of centaur type creature that is that gives me the ability to ride around the entire globe. Okay, seamlessly ride around the entire globe. Think about it as Santa Claus and his sleigh. I can just travel around the globe on this centaur-like hell-spawned creature with a hose full of hellfire that I'm spraying in any direction. And what happens with me now is I get to ride around the planet Earth, and everywhere where the Catholic establishment exists, I get to burn it down with its own imaginary hellfire that it itself made up. And at once, a resounding chorus of cell phones began ringing that could be heard all over the land as homosexuals all over the world were getting phone calls from their grandparents. Their grandparents calling them and saying, Tommy, your grandfather and I were just talking and we realized we haven't spoken to you in 15 years. And we'd just love to have you over for some supper. And that boy, what's his name? Douglas, that's right. He's so handsome. What a nice boy. And did we ever tell you how adorable the two of you are together? Please bring Douglas. Right? And then right at the same time, tucked away somewhere in some corner of Northern Ireland, there's a pub and there's two old men sitting in this pub getting drunk, and there's a Catholic and a Protestant, and they're disagreeing as they do. And the Catholic's saying, transubstantiation, you see, the body and the blood are miraculously in the bread and the wine. And the Protestant says, no, you fool. Consubstantiation, the body and the blood are coexisting alongside the bread and the wine. Until finally they're both like, you know what, fuck it. Who fucking cares? You mean to tell me that we have been spilling blood for fucking generations over this shit? Let me buy you a beer. I like you. All of a sudden, you know what? I've got some family down in Southern Ireland. I think they'd really get a kick out of you. Why don't you make a trip down there with me? We'll all sit down together and have dinner. It'll be great. Best of all, what happens is Scott Stapp's entire catalog of music is no longer enjoyed by anybody on the planet. So from this day on, every time Scott Stapp tries to play a concert, there's 1,000 people there. They're waiting to hear him play, but he comes out and he puts his arms out like Jesus, and he's got a fan blowing on him from the stage. And as soon as he comes out and goes, I'm just the news from day, right at that moment, everybody just goes, fuck you! Just play the fucking song about the Marlins. And that's all anybody wants to hear anymore from Scott Stapp is just that shitty song that he made about the Florida Marlins. Have you ever heard that song, you guys? If you haven't, you must, right now, stop this. Go to YouTube and Find the song and the video that Scott Stapp made for the fucking Florida Marlins. It is the worst thing that's ever been created. It's so bad that it's fucking awesome. It's incredible. It's one of my favorite things in the whole entire world. I mean, it is incredibly bad. You won't believe how bad it is. I just told you how bad it is, and you think that I'm probably exaggerating. I actually can't even describe how bad it is. It's so bad that you won't believe it. So we get that, okay? Homosexuals are reunited with their families. Northern Ireland and Southern Ireland are coexisting. Everything's cool. We don't have to put up with Scott Stapp anymore unless we just want to go watch the fucking song about the Marlins. Let's not forget the most important thing, the millions and millions of children who will be born into this world over the course of existence, who will never have to know the life-shattering implications of being unprotected from this global, widely accepted little fucking clubhouse which propagates this culture of immorality and complete, unaccountable predation and harm against them. Why? All because of Slayer, Casey Anthony, George Zimmerman, Chris Brown, Hillary Clinton, Donald Trump, Satan, and one beautiful, sweet little baby boy who, for a very, very short time, they called Frank. And thusly, the world lived somewhat more happily ever after. The end. Good night, children. Good night, children. Okay, you guys, now I've been editing this thing for like the last 2 hours and adding, music and sound effects and all of this shit, right? Like doing post-production stuff. And I need to say, there's been a lot of satanic content in this, and a lot of times where it really lifts up the devil and glorifies him. And I just have to tell you that I am just so happy right now. I'm so full of joy. I literally, like, when I hit pause to take a break or go to the bathroom or something, I've literally been skipping everywhere I go while I've been working on this episode. And I find that when I praise Satan and I lift him up on high, I am so filled with joy. It makes me so fucking happy. Just to say praise him, just hail Satan. And I just want to say thank you, Satan. I want to say praise Satan, hail Satan, praise his name. That's all. It feels really good. Try it. Try it right now. In your car, whatever. Just try it. I'll wait. Try it. Doesn't it just feel good? I got to get out of here. But before I do, I need to I want to just say that the whole spot about the Protestant and the Catholic in the pub in Northern Ireland, I like how that fit into my whole fairy tale, fictional, imaginary story about this sudden global peace giving. In the context of it, I liked how that all worked with my story, so I'm leaving it. But I in no way want to trivialize the actual conflict that has been taking place in Ireland for years and years and years and years. I don't mean to put light on the lives that have been lost or destroyed by the whole thing. Okay, I want to be very clear about that so that there's no misinterpretation. All right? Otherwise, let's just all turn the page and roll on to episode 8. You can do that right now if you want to. It's going to be really easy. We're just going to talk about a bunch of music, and then we're going to have a really wholesome conversation with Travis the Millennial. It's going to be great, okay? So I'll see you on the other side of all of this, and until then, may all of your hearts be filled on this day with the warmth and the comfort of one brightly burning, everlasting, and eternal hellfire. Praise him. I'll talk with you soon.